Okay, welcome to the September 28th City Council meeting. We acknowledge that the land on which we gather is Treaty 2 land known as First Nations territory, homeland of the Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, and Métis Nation. Moved by Councillor Juba, seconded by Councillor Lachlan. Be it resolved that the regular council meeting agenda be amended as follows. Deletions, delegation from the Economic Development and Tourism, Brian Baker and Ember Kucher. All in favor? Moved by Deputy Mayor Riel, seconded by Councillor Bellemare. Be it resolved that council accepts the regular agenda as amended. Any questions? I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion carried. Moved by Councillor Lachlan, seconded by Councillor Juba. Be it resolved that council waives the reading and accepts and approves as circulated the minutes of the following meeting, that of the regular council meeting of September 14th, 2020. Any questions? Call the questions. All in favor? Motion carried. Moved by Councillor Juba, seconded by Deputy Mayor Riel. Be it resolved that all items listed under item 5 consent agenda be approved as follows and form part of the minutes. First, action items, proclamation Right to Know Week. Whereas reasonable access to information is fundamental to a democratic society, and whereas Right to Know Day is celebrated around the world every September 28th to mark the benefits of transparent, accessible government. And whereas Right to Know Week is recognized in communities across Canada from September 28th to October 4th, 2020, and whereas in Manitoba, the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act and Personal Health Information Act applies to public sector bodies, including the City of Dauphin, and enable person to obtain access to records subject to a specific limited exceptions. And whereas it is important to highlight and observe the importance of an open and accountable government, now, therefore, we, the Council of the City of Dauphin, do proclaim the week of September 28th to October 4th as Right to Know Week. I signed it today. Next one, and this is a long one. This is Fire Prevention Week. Whereas the City of Dauphin is committed to ensuring the safety and security of those living in and visiting Dauphin, and whereas fire is a serious public safety concern both locally and nationally, and homes are the locations where people are at the greatest risk from fire, and whereas when the smoke alarm sounds, Dauphin residents may have less than 2 minutes to escape to safety, and whereas Dauphin residents who have planned and practiced a home fire escape plan are more prepared and will therefore be likely to survive a fire, and whereas Dauphin residents should make a home escape plan, drawing a map of each level of the home, showing all doors and windows, and whereas Dauphin residents should practice the home fire escape plan with everyone in the household, including visitors, and whereas Dauphin residents should practice the home fire escape drill at least twice a year during the day and night, and whereas Dauphin residents should teach children to escape on their own in case adults cannot help them, and whereas Dauphin residents should make sure everyone in the home knows how to call 911 or the local emergency number from a cell phone or a neighbor's phone. And whereas Dauphin residents should practice using different ways out, and whereas Dauphin residents in a real emergency should get low and go under the smoke to get out quickly, and whereas Dauphin residents should get out and stay out, never going back inside the home for pets, people, or things, and whereas Dauphin residents are responsive to public education measures, are able to take action to increase their safety from fire, especially in their homes. And whereas unattended cooking is the #1 cause of home fires, this week's Fire Prevention Week serve up fire safety in the kitchen, works to educate everyone about the simple and most important actions that they can take to keep themselves and those around them safe in the kitchen. And whereas all the people of Dauphin are urged to be aware of their surroundings and look for available points of escape in the event of a fire or another emergency, respond when the smoke alarm sounds by exiting the building immediately, and support the many public safety activities and efforts of the Dauphin Fire Department during Fire Prevention Week 2020. Therefore, we, the Council of the City of Dauphin, do proclaim the week of October 4th to the 10th, 2020 as Fire Prevention Week, dated at the City of Dauphin in the province of Manitoba, this 28th day of September 2020. And it was signed by myself. And everybody, now I'll ask questions of councillors if they were listening. No. Yeah. So it's a very important week, and I know our Dauphin Fire Department does a great job in public education, and they'll probably be going to schools and other places. I know they do a demonstration at go ahead.
The Kings game too.
Oh, okay.
They're going to be there for a Kings game, doing all sorts of fire prevention stuff too for the kids. So that's kind of exciting as well. No, the week after. Yeah.
That I just mentioned, as recommended by the mayor and city manager. The filing items, AMM, news bulletin, September 11th, news releases, AMM tours, Eastern Manitoba. Thompson Mayor Colleen Smook was elected city caucus chair on Thursday, and member advisories, temporary PCH visitation shelters, and a reminder, council members code of conduct bill 2, where I think we're doing a reading today. Federation of FCM Connect of September 10th, 11th, 15th, 24th. COVID releases from Manitoba Media. Justice, new retail crime force to support safer communities. Municipal relations, the final installment of the 2021 municipal operating grant, and Mountain View School Division, the news digest of September 14th, 2020, as recommended by the mayor and city manager. Any questions? Deputy.
Just wonder if the city manager had any more information on that retail crime task force bulletin. Is quite interesting, and they're putting a lot of effort into retail crime and the tolerance especially around liquor stores. How will that impact us rurally, or will it, or do you see that just for the city?
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor Reel. I definitely read that news release with interest and clicked through the links to see what I could find out or what we could find out. And I also listened to a radio segment on CBC from one of the members who are on that task force, and it I don't want to say it's centered around the city, but it certainly felt like it was centered around the city. And it was to do with major crimes like, at gunpoint or violent crimes. Those were my take on what they're focusing on. So I think we'll have to let it play out and let them have a meeting or two to see how does that translate to the rest of Manitoba. Looking at the membership of that task force, they are all Winnipeg centered people. If you happen to also look at that, so I have no further information, but I definitely paid attention to that information that came out.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? I'll call the questions. All in favor? Motion carried. Moved by Councillor Bellemare and seconded by Councillor Eilers. Be it resolved that Council accepts the following corporate report for the September 28th meeting, that of the City Manager. City Manager, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's been a couple weeks since our last meeting, and I just kind of took a look, and it's like 16 meetings in 10 working days. So it feels like some days I'm meeting right out, but I'm happy to say that most of them are in person now. So it's a lot easier to maybe get things figured out and wrap our head around some concepts. So they're not all online. A few things for highlights. COVID-19, we've been talking about that every meeting. And so I'm happy that our area, Prairie Mountain Health region, has been downgraded again to the Manitoba Restart Pandemic Response System status of yellow or caution from our almost 4 weeks of restricted or orange. So again, we had to go through a few changes and see what our operations looked like. That it did give our ability to meet in groups of up to 50 indoors and 100 outdoors, as well as the removal of a requirement to wear a non-medical mask in public spaces. However, the province is still strongly recommending the use of masks in public, especially if we cannot physically distance. So we have noted that in our council chambers, we were all wearing masks until we got seated, and then we're all distanced and are able to take them off. So that is all that I have to update on that. Second one is our Parkland regional meetings. So after the election in 2018, councils in the Parkland thought it was wise to make an effort to work together for the betterment of the Parkland. In the fall of 2019, municipalities and First Nations met for a one-day facilitated meeting to start that process. The areas identified that we can work on together were tourism, economic development, population expansion and retention, and relationship building. A smaller focus group met briefly after the Dauphin Correctional Center closure announcement in late January and early February, but because of COVID, there were no consistent meetings in the spring and into the summer. We have started meeting again in late summer and early fall, and we are focusing on two things. One of them is tourism and relationship building. In terms of administrative help for this group, Nicole Chakota from the Arm of Dauphin and I have been providing some of that support to get meetings put together, scheduled, and agendas put together, and some helping the chair, who is head of council of St. Rose, Rob Burnell, to get information through to him. And we are currently working on those two noted areas, tourism and relationship building. So we are working with Travel Manitoba and Parkland Tourism to achieve some of these goals for 2021. And we note that there's many things to do and see in the Parkland, and a lot of time tourism is focused on from summer to summer. However, we want to work together with these two groups to make sure that maybe come January 2021, we do have something that we can promote in the parkland to draw people here and let them know that we have wonderful spaces and things that they can see and do, and also to promote it locally because I think that as we've seen in the last 6 months, we have been encouraged to explore our home province or home areas, and we want to make sure that the parkland lets everybody know what we have to offer. And then secondly, we are arranging for some training regarding First Nations, and that is to help us work on our relationship with them and work together and better communicate to achieve common goals. Next topic is the Deputy City Manager's medical leave. So the Deputy City Manager, it was a planned 1-year leave. She is expecting in the middle of October. And so her leave started last Monday, a week ago today, September 21st. So we have reviewed her roles and have made arrangements for existing staff to temporarily cover off those roles in the coming months. If at any time the workload requires extra staff, we will seek help accordingly. It is very difficult to temporarily recruit for senior management. So if we do have to have other administrative help to keep us going, we will acquire that accordingly. So for issues that would typically be handled by the Deputy City Manager, council and residents can contact City Hall as usual, and the frontline staff will direct those issues accordingly. And also to note, part of the Deputy City Manager staff complement is the bylaw enforcement officer, and we have currently posted for a new officer, and that position closes on Wednesday. And last, the 2020 property taxes. So those taxes for this year are due for the City of Dauphin on Wednesday, September 30th. They can be paid in person at City Hall by cash, check, or debit. And just as a reminder, ratepayers need to be aware of the financial institution imposed limits on bank cards. I know that we've had people come here quite frustrated on the last day because they want to pay for their taxes. They have money in their account, but their debit card has only maybe a $500 limit per day or a $1,000 limit per day. So just heads up on that. We'll also accept checks deposited into our drop box at the north entrance of our door. And then payments can also be made through financial institutions. However, they do need to be received on our system by September 30th to be considered on time. So if anybody wants to pay or needs to pay through their bank, check first to make sure that it can get here in time. And that concludes my report.
Any questions of the City Manager? Councillor Juba.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With the extension of the tax for this year, how many or what percentage of the taxes are still out there?
So we have not fully analyzed it on a day-by-day basis, but we did have our Director of Finance take a look at it. I believe it was middle of September, just to get an idea, and we did have 40% outstanding at that point. So usually we have about 12% outstanding on the due date. We have a lot of people that need to come through our doors and a lot of money that needs to come in to hit that same that same milestone for the end of September. But we do encourage everybody to try their best and come in and make those payments.
Any other questions of City Manager? Seeing none, I'll ask the questions. All in favor? Motion carried. Moved by Councillor Juba, seconded by Councillor Loughlin. Be it resolved that Council accepts as information the following corporate report for September 28th meeting, that of the Marketing Coordinator. Any questions? I'll call the questions. All in favor? Motion carried. Moved by Councillor Bellemare, seconded by Councillor Eilers. Be it resolved that finance accounts haven't been examined by council be hereby authorized and approved as follows. Check numbers 27059 to 171.63 checks for $456,231.36. There's no voided checks and no electronic payments. Just a few highlights of the bigger checks. Dauphin Rec Services, September appropriation, $141,124.05. Public Library, fourth quarter appropriation, $16,366.25. Municipal Pension Fund, $42,727.21. The Parkland Regional Library, $18,202.58. Ready Mix for the sidewalks, $18,637.38. The Receiver General source deductions of $35,511.38, and John Ury for various building incentives of $15,607.36. Any questions? Seeing none, I'll call the questions. All in favor? Motion carried. Moved by Councillor Loughlin, seconded by Councillor Juba. Be it resolved that Council accepts as information the following engineering report for September 28, 2020, and that of the Director of Public Works and Operations. And Bill, are you ready to go?
I'm ready.
Go ahead.
Is my microphone working this time?
We hear you.
Okay, good. All right, my report is very long, so I'm not going to go through everything. I'm going to try and hit on some highlights, and if there is any other questions of my report, I'll definitely try and answer them. I start my report by saying that this has been a very challenging construction season for us. It's been very hard working with outside organizations. Are we okay?
Yeah, we hear you, Bill.
Okay, sorry. It's been very hard working with outside organizations. Things have moved at a snail's pace with basically everything that we've done. That being said, we have been getting some projects done, especially our local projects. So I gave council an update on those. I'm not going to go through them again, but most of our construction projects, those kind of things, have been moving along in the city fairly well. One of the projects that's been extremely slow to get moving is the diversion center. I ran into some further issues with the construction of the building and building code requirements and a whole bevy of things that were going to cause a bunch of grief. So we are now going with the modified shipping containers for our diversion centers. It's just the easiest route, not a lot of cost savings, but we can avoid a lot of other issues by simply using these. So the shipping containers are on order. I will be announcing that we will start collecting household hazardous waste very shortly. I'm just waiting on some signage. It'll be a temporary location, but I know that we would normally collect these in September. So I know people are holding off with these items and we need to get them collected. So that'll be coming very shortly. Our drainage study as well, our consultants have been slow thanks to COVID as well. So, and I hope that to hear or have the basic draft or the final draft of that report here very shortly. Our MWSB project for upgrades at our lift station and orthophosphate system at the water treatment plant was tendered and awarded in July, and a week later the contractor backed out of the deal. I have here that we were waiting on the bid bond company, but I did hear today that MWSB is going with second bidder, and that we will have a construction startup project next week, or meeting next week. So that project is finally getting going. our active transportation plan hit a snag with one of the main proponents from Urban Systems leaving to take a job with the city of Winnipeg. We've worked through that and everything is back on schedule. So I hope to have a report or a draft report or a plan for council to review next month. I did give some stats on the open house and what happened as far as that. We had about 35 people show up for the open house for the active transportation plan. We got about 40 surveys in total from residents in the community, and most things were positive. You know, obviously there were some people that we heard from that were in disagreement with the whole idea, and that has all been taken into consideration. I have seen the draft strategy document. It is very, very good and very all-encompassing for sure. And like I said, council should have an opportunity to review that probably very shortly. They're working on the other parts of the plan, so you know, the overall map of where we need these facilities, you know, standard drawings, how they would be incorporated in different situations, those kind of things. So that's what they're working on right now. Obviously, we want the entire package for council to review. I applied for the FCM Municipal Asset Management Program grant. Basically, we heard back from them that they'll let us know in 6 months whether or not we got the grant. So because the majority of the work that I proposed to do was covered by the grant, that included our own staff time. We could actually put our own staff time into these grants. So in essence, everything is on hold until we hear from them whether we got the grant or not, because I cannot claim backwards. So if I was to proceed and do any of this work, I would not be, I'd basically have to redo the grant application because I wouldn't be able to fund that work. So that's where that's held. Safe Sidewalks was in town and repaired about 334 trip hazards. This year I had them work around the downtown area, so obviously not on the paving stone sidewalks, but on all our concrete sidewalks from 4th South to 4th North, basically. And the first 1 or 2 blocks off Main, where we would see the majority of our pedestrian traffic, I had them eliminate the trip hazards there, and then they also worked in the north section of the community. We originally had them do an assessment of our sidewalks, and they identified about 3,600 hazards at that time, which again, if the council remembers, they thought was excellent for a community our size. So our sidewalks are in relatively good shape, and we've roughly did about a third of them in 3 years. Watson Arts Center work was completed. I'm just waiting on an invoice to get the grant money. Asphalt is going down this week and should be completed this week. Sidewalk projects are wrapping up, but there'll be a couple that we won't finish. And Recreation Manager Ryan Vanderheyden and myself continue to work on Climate Smart certification. So as you know, that's monitoring and managing and planning for greenhouse gas emissions and reductions in those. I hope to see that completed in about a month. We have a final meeting with Climate Smart, I believe, in 2 weeks to finalize that, and then we would be able to post all of that information for everybody to see. I'll stop there before I think that's the basic highlights of my report. If council has any questions, I would certainly try to answer them for you.
Councillor Bellemare.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For the safe sidewalks, you said that 3,600 hazards have been identified and that this is a 5-year contract with this company. Will they be able to address all 3,600 of them within 5 years? What's the future looking like for that?
No, so it's not a 5-year contract. So originally, when we took this on, we had, as administration, had decided that we would go with a 5-year program to eliminate as many as possible. So what we're eliminating right now, so these will vary from, you know, a little trip hazard to a crack to, you know, whatever. If we're missing an accessibility ramp or whatever the case may be. So the 5-year program is to eliminate those those hazards that make sense for these people to eliminate. In some cases, it makes no sense for us to. So in essence, what these people do is they come in and they trim off all these trip hazards. Where there's a huge trip hazard where a panel might be sticking up 3 or 4 inches, it doesn't make sense to trim those back because it doesn't leave any concrete. So the sidewalk will pay to have that fixed, and then the sidewalk will fail very shortly thereafter. So of those 3,600, we won't have them fix all 3,600. Some of them will be our own fix by replacing panels and part of our sidewalk maintenance program. Our hope is that, yes, we will hit the majority of those lesser hazards in the 5-year program. And again, we can always look to hire them anytime in the future if we want to do more.
Okay, thank you. And then further, the hazardous waste day, I believe you said that we're not having that this year because the likelihood of the that hazardous waste center being open, and that will be advertised in the near future. Is that correct?
That is correct. I hope to have before the end of the week advertised to start collecting that. I'm just waiting on some signage that I'm having prepared here to put up on there because it is a temporary facility. I've actually ordered a double size modified container for household hazardous waste. But in the meantime, we're going to start collecting it. Product Care, who is the product recovery organization, they are said to go ahead and start collecting this because we can use all these materials in training our staff on proper operation of the facility going forward.
Thank you.
Just wonder if you could, the diversion site, is that timely? Like, is that only something you can work on in the summer, or will we be able to extend work onto that into the winter, or what's your vision for that?
So right now I'm waiting on these shipping containers, which are supposed to be here in about 3 weeks. But yeah, it's not, we're doing the site prep. It's a matter of setting down these containers. I hope to at some point install some cameras and that kind of stuff. And again, depends on whether our ICT manager wants to go out in the wintertime to put these up or not. But they're not critical to the operation. The critical part is to get the facilities for housing or storing these materials, and that should be done in, like I said, in the next 3 weeks or so. The site is being developed. Fencing is going up this week as well around that site, the diversion center site at the waste disposal site. So in essence, we're very close, but it's been a fight to get to where we are, I assure you.
Okay, thank you.
Just further to Deputy Mayor Israel. So the diversion site will be finished this year?
Yes, it will be finished this year, come hell or high water.
Okay, thanks, Bill.
I don't have a question as much as a comment. I'm really disappointed in the number of responses to our trails and stuff. There was like 40 people. There's a lot of people that were complaining about on the Mountain Road, and the number here. They kind of felt that they weren't being listened to. It's just unfortunate. So want to participate any further. They felt their voice being heard.
Any further questions? Councillor Stakilo, go ahead. Councillor Stakilo, or did you want to speak?
Oh, sorry. Oh, no, sorry, Al. Technical difficulty. No questions here.
Any further questions? No. Well, Bill, and also, is the compost site ready?
No, it's not. I've been fighting with the diversion center. I wanted to get that up and going before I concentrated on the compost site. So I have the request for quotes ready for that. I just want to finish up the other one before I do it. It's probably something that can be done in the fall, but based on the problems with contractors and the fact that every contractor we talk to says, yeah, we can do work for you, but it can't be until next year. I don't expect that. I expect that we can get somebody, but I don't expect that they're going to do it until spring anyhow. So I'm not too terribly rushed on that. Our compost site, we've moved all the existing compost. We have it set up very well. So just developing the site in the spring. We're not going to do anything over the winter anyhow. The compost is all basically there. We're collecting it right now, so I'm not hugely concerned with it. But if I can get somebody in this fall, we'll do it. But like I said, you know, everything we do, the contractors are saying, yeah, we can do work, but it won't be until next year. So I don't expect it to be done this year.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you very much. Seeing there's no further questions, all in favor? Motion carried. Moved by Deputy Mayor Riel, seconded by Councillor Eilers. Be it resolved that Council accepts as information the following engineering department staff reports of September 28th, the building inspector and the utility foreman. And just looking at the statistics that the building inspectors provided, we've done 4,205,247 of permits this year to the end of August. So that's a little bit still a good number, and that last year there was no single family dwellings, and this year we have 4 for a valuation of 1.4 million. So and a lot of repairs and renovations at 18 for 698,290 as compared to 194 last year. So we're doing good, and people are still investing in Dauphin. So any questions of the report? Seeing none, I'll call the questions. All in favor? Motion carried. Moved by Councillor Juba, seconded by Councillor Lachlan. Be it resolved that Council accepts as information the minutes and reports of the following committee: the Intermountain Watershed District Annual Report 2019-20, Evaluation of Grassed Waterways 1998 to 2017, Conservation Standing Committee meeting of August 19th, 2020, Conservation Program Coordinators Report of August 2020, Technicians Report of August 2020. Any questions of the report? Councillor Bellemare.
It's not a question, it's an observation. I thought it was interesting that their Facebook users increased and their Twitter users decreased. And I'm only pointing that out because I know that we're looking at our social media plan for the city. So I just thought I'd throw that out there. So that's part of the mix. Thank you.
Any other observations of councillors? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? Motion carried. Moved by Deputy Mayor Riel, seconded by Councillor Bellemare. Whereas the City of Dauphin owns CN Station 101 First Avenue Northwest and leases space to tenants, and whereas the lease agreement between the City of Dauphin and Shared Health, formerly Winnipeg Regional Health Authority, expired on March 31st, 2020, with the tenant overholding in the premises pursuant to the terms of the lease on a month-to-month basis, and whereas the City of Dauphin extended an offer to lease with Shared Health on October 8th, 2024, term of 2 years commencing April 1st, 2020 and expiring on March 31st, 2022. And whereas Shared Health, due to COVID restrictions, has not been able to meet to discuss the offer and has asked for an extension to the time given to consider the lease, be it resolved that Council accepts as information the second condition extension notice submitted by Shared Health with respect to the offer to lease at CN Station, requesting that the condition set forth on page 3, section 15, tenant condition precedent of the offer to be extended to October 8th, 2020, which provides more time for Shared Health to meet regarding the lease, and further be it resolved that Council authorizes the second condition of extension notice to be signed and sealed on behalf of the City of Dauphin by the City Manager. Basically, just a matter of time. More time. And hopefully they'll sign for it. Any questions? Councillor Bellemare?
So in the CN station, do we still have that one space that's available to rent? Okay.
Yes, we have one very small space, and we've actually had about 3 people come in and almost lease it, and then kind of situations, you know what? I'm going to say 5 people come in and really express some interest. Most recent one was something where they had to do some renovations to the space to make it usable for them, and then they decided that it was too much to undertake because it is a heritage building, and we would need to have some consultation with Manitoba Heritage to be able to do those renovations, and they did not want to go that way. But it's definitely generated a lot of interest.
Any other questions? Call the questions. All in favor? Motion carried. Moved by Councillor Juba, seconded by Councillor Lachlan. Whereas Tutsuwan Big TTFN owns land in the RM of Dauphin adjacent to the City of Dauphin Aqueduct. And whereas the City of Dauphin has a caveat on TTFN's land to allow access to the aqueduct for maintenance, repair, and replacement. And whereas TTFN seeks to add said lands to reserve and process, a process that cannot occur if there are instruments registered on the land. And whereas the City of Dauphin and TTFN have been working together with their respective legal counsel regarding the process to add the land to reserve, but still ensure the city's aqueduct is protected into the future. Be it resolved that Council accepts this information, a memorandum from the City Manager dated September 17, 2020, providing an update on the process of protecting the City of Dauphin's aqueduct through an addition to reserve process, specifically with respect to TTFN land on Lot 14, Plan 1893 DLTO, Northwest Quarter, 342419, west of the primary in the city in the rural municipality of Dauphin. Further be it resolved that Council accepts this information and agreement to discharge the caveat and grant easement for access, which outline the process to ensure the City of Dauphin aqueduct adjacent to the above mentioned land has the same protection through an easement on reserve land as it does through the existing caveat. Further be it resolved that Council agrees with the City Manager's recommendation to approve the agreement to discharge caveat and grant easement for access, and authorizes the Mayor and City Manager to sign and seal the agreement on behalf of the City of Dauphin. Any questions? It's been a long process. So seeing no questions, I'll call the questions. All in favor? Motion carried. Moved by Councillor Bellemare, seconded by Deputy Mayor Riel. Whereas 2019, the City of Dauphin secured grant funding from Natural Resources for the installation of Parkland's first electric vehicle EV station. Notice I never said UV, which I usually do. Rapid charger for 50% of the total project cost to a maximum of $50,000 per charging unit. And whereas in Dauphin, January 2020, the City of Dauphin also applied for a Sustainable Communities grant through the province of Manitoba to provide additional funding for the EV project. Be it resolved that Council accepts this information, a memorandum date of September 24, 2020 from the Information Communications Technology Manager advising the City of Dauphin was awarded a grant from the Building Sustainable Communities Program for the electric vehicle EV3 charger project in the amount of $39,300 based on an estimated installation cost of $83,300. Further, be it resolved that Council accepts this information, the Building Sustainable Communities Fund contribution agreement, and authorizes the city manager to sign and seal the agreement on behalf of the City of Dauphin. And when this is to be installed very shortly.
So right now there's an RFP posted to get companies to bid on the installation. And then actually installation and then getting it connected to be able to provide power. It's something that's not just to install and forget about it, but we do need services to continue to, it's the payment process to allow access to the power. So it closes shortly and it is on track to be done before the end of the year.
Councillor Bellemare?
Yes, I heard that the net zero house sold. Is that true?
That is true.
So what happens to the money from there? Where does that go? Because that's involved with all these energy projects as well, correct?
That's correct. So the big plan at the beginning was to build the house and sell it for a profit. And Fusion Credit Union did hold the mortgage on that house. They actually were very generous and provided the line of credit right from day one for any expenses that were required. And then as we got grant money provided to us, that went to help offset the costs that Fusion Credit Union were holding. But they have been holding the mortgage for about the last year, just over a year and a half. I don't know today where that money all shakes out, but it is frankly I think it's a wash, if I can make that guess. But if there is any extra money, the intent was to put it towards this EV3 project or other green projects in our community, and we're just I'm not even sure that the deal has closed yet, so we're just finalizing that. But we are also in communications with Fusion Credit Union and Co-op Building Centers, which are the two main partners for that net zero house. Part of the Building Sustainable Communities grant is to have a 10% community contribution for the amount of the grant. So we're working on securing that through those two entities.
Any other questions? Call the question. All in favor? Motion carried. Are you prepared for the next one? Moved by Councillor Laughlin, seconded by Councillor Juba. Be it resolved that bylaw 11/2020 being a bylaw of the City of Dauphin to establish water and wastewater rates be now read for a first time. And I'll ask the city manager to provide details of the bylaw.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So currently the city of Dauphin is using the 2018 utility rates for all of our utility billing in the city of Dauphin. The bylaw that provides for that was for rates between 2013 and 2018, and it would be customary and standard to do a rate study before or shortly thereafter. A bylaw does not provide for any increased or further rates, but we had the Lagoon project on the horizon, and it always seemed like it was almost within reach. So we did not want to go through the process of going through a rate study if we, 6 months later, it was going to be announced that the lagoon was granted, and then we would have to go back to the Public Utility Board to do an adjustment or a new rate study because we had this very large project granted to us. We now understand that we're not sure when we're even going to get word on the lagoon project, and frankly, if we were to get word today, for example, we would not have anything done most likely until 2021, and then we thought we would use the next year to determine operating costs, and then do either an amendment in the third year of our proposal, or wait and do a full rate study and get the lagoon expenses reflected in the rates starting 2024. So that is where we've landed. We did do a rate study this summer. We are proposing that it starts in 2021, and it does go for 3 years, 2021, 22, and 23. Overall, the increase will be less than 10% for all of our users. As an example, most residential services have a 5/8 water line, and we're anticipating an 8.13% increase in the overall utility for that, utility cost for that. There has been an increase, not including the lagoon, and that is because of the newly announced, and it's new to us, requirements to remove for additional removal of phosphorus and ammonia from our effluent, and that was announced after the 2012 rate study was done. So that is something that we have been absorbing the costs of, but it is quite expensive to do that. So that was one of the main drivers of getting this rate study done right now. Let me see if there's any other topics. So the process to get new rates approved by the Public Utilities Board is to perform the rate study, and it is quite involved. It's not just the bylaw that we're going to be reading tonight. There is probably a better part of 100 pages that we do have to submit to the Public Utility Board. But the bylaw does need to receive first reading, and we have that on the agenda today. This is the item. If that is approved, then we send the entire package to the Public Utilities Board. They will take a look at it, and they will decide if it is a large enough change to do a public hearing, or if it is small enough to do a desk review. Once they have reviewed it and worked with us to address any of their concerns, then it will come back to the City of Dauphin with an order, a Public Utility Board order, and we would give second and third reading to the bylaw as stated in that order. Right now, we do have the bylaw stating that the utility rates would start on January 1st, 2021. However, we are told by the Public Utility Board that it could take as much as 6 months to get to get their review complete. So we did elect to keep the first reading of the bylaw with a date of January 1st, 2021, but we'll update the date to either April 1st or July 1st, 2021, once we better know the Public Utility Board's timing.
Thank you, City Manager. Any questions of councillors? Any questions? Call the questions. All in favor? Motion carried. by Councillor Eilers, seconded by Councillor Bellemare. Be it resolved that bylaw 12/2020, being a bylaw of the City of Dauphin to establish and regulate a code of conduct for members of council, be now read a first time. Any questions? We've gone over it, and I think the process we've, for a third party, we've provided municipal relations with a list of adjudicators that are available from Dauphin. So, okay, I'll call the questions. All in favor? Motion carried. Moved by Councillor Juba, seconded by Councillor Lachlan. Be it resolved that bylaw 13/2020, being a bylaw of the City of Dauphin to amend zoning bylaw 04/2015, regulating the use and development of land, 610 Buchanan Avenue West, from a residential single family to residential multifamily, be now read a first time. Any questions? Call the questions. All in favor? Motion carried. Moved by Councillor Eilers, seconded by Deputy Mayor Riel. Be it resolved that bylaw 14/20, being a bylaw of City of Dauphin to amend zoning bylaw 04/2015, regulating the use and development of land, 101 Whitmore Avenue East, from agricultural to residential single family, be now read a first time. That's the cruise land. Yeah. Okay, any questions? I'll call the questions. All in favor? Motion carried. Moved by Councillor Lachlan, second by Councillor Juba. Be it resolved that council accepts as information the invitations listed below. Travel Manitoba Dauphin Place branding session, October 6, 2020, and I've registered for that. Best Western Plus grand opening on October 14th, 2020, and that was to all of council and some city staff. So are we sort of pick a time? What is best time? One to 4. It's 1 o'clock. Get it done with. Sure. So you could you advise them at 1 o'clock? So I noticed there people are staying. I had a friend call me from there, from Humboldt. So yeah, it's interesting. It's good. All in favor? Motion carried. Next, we start with councillor privileges, and I'll start with, I can't remember these things. Deputy Mayor Riel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. September 14th, I attended the last council meeting here at City Hall. On the 15th, I attended the Derailers. We met the Derailers board up at the Northgate Trail tour. A very interesting tour, and they've done a lot of volunteer work has gone into that. So kudos to them for all their efforts. On the 16th, I attended the property standards meeting here at City Hall. It was pretty slim with the amount of people that were here. We hadn't met since last October, so it was about the first time in 11 months we had met. So there's some work to do there. Then I forget what day it was, but Ember Kuchar had us with Justin, our IT, and Councillor Bellemare. We did a collage, and Justin did a painting to submit with Culture Days. That was as a result of a challenge, and learned that not only is Justin skilled in IT, he's an excellent painter. So ask him about his talents. Maybe you'll be able to purchase his painting. On the 21st, due to our mayor being away, I provided greetings at the CMHA Swan Valley Board AGM. Just of note, they celebrated 30 years. So congratulations to them on their 30-year anniversary. And they've seen a definite increase in mental health supports for people during this COVID-19. So thank you to them for all their work that they've done. Other things that I've done, I met with a resident in regards to a public safety complaint, which took me to trying to assist with the RCMP and through Manitoba Justice for a resolution. So still working on her with that. And on the 27th, I went to the King's second exhibition game. After you've watched your kids play hockey at age 10 all weekend, the Kings sure are fast. So they had an excellent, excellent game. And here ends my report.
Thank you. Councillor Juba.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My report is short this time around. On September the 14th, I attended the regular council meeting at City Hall. On the 15th, I was unable to attend the Northgate Trail tour. However, I did take a drive up there subsequently, and I did get in touch with Clayton and told him that I was impressed with the work that they have done. It was a real nice, beautiful summer or a fall day, and there were people on the trails, and it's nice to see they're being used. September 21st, I believe that's the date. We had the planning and priorities meeting here at City Hall. And just one condolence, I just want to offer my condolence to Ryan Rollick and all his family on the passing of his mother, Vivian, who passed away last week. And that ends my report.
Thank you, Councillor Eilers.
On September 14th, I too attended the city council meeting, and on the 15th, derailers at the Northgate Trail with the rest of council. There was a lot of volunteer work to develop these trails, so congratulations to them. On September the 21st, I attended a personnel committee meeting and followed by planning and priority meeting. On September 23rd to the 24th, I was part of a virtual symposium with the National CIB. It was a lot of new topics, hardy flowers for our climate. There was a presentation, an excellent presentation on green infrastructure, rain gardens, bioswale, and also protecting your community investments. And they will continue on. I believe it's starting October 1st. They've diversified and just made it so that everybody could get a chance. And I believe the topics is what drives your community and success, and also youth involvement. And I too want to offer my condolences to the Rollick family on the passing of Vivian Rollick, who volunteered with many organizations in our community, and also condolences to Lauren Schindek's family. He was a branch manager with Coca-Cola, and he served also as a coffee and beverage supplier to the region. He spent a lot of time in the provincial building, but he was also involved in many community organizations, including the Ukrainian Festival, Ducks Unlimited, and Dauphin Shrine Club. Very active, and that ends my report.
Okay. On September 15th, I went with council and some staff to the Dauphin Derailers. And we met at the trailhead, as been mentioned, and we received an update and a tour of the buildings there. And this group, as mentioned, has accomplished a great deal in a very short period of time. So there's trails for all levels of biking and walking, and fall is the beautiful time to check them out. If you haven't been there, just before you enter Riding Mountain National Park, you'll see the big sign on your right, and you can turn in and check them out. Also on Thursdays at 6:15, women of all levels of biking experience are invited to meet at the trailhead for a ride, and that's led by Melissa Stefanu. That's a name that's well known at City Hall. Last week there were about 15 people of all ages and abilities, and I'll let you figure out if my friends and I were at the beginning, middle, or the end of that group riding those trails. September 21st, I attended the PNP meeting, and October 5th, the fall cleanup begins. Beginning with day 4 this time, not day 1 on the garbage cycle. So people know to put your items for pickup in the back lane, and those are your yard waste items that don't fit into your green bin. They won't be picking up garbage or lumber, etc. And I had written about the hazardous waste day, and that was answered tonight during the council meeting. The reason we're not seeing ads yet in the paper is because that's coming, and that will be at the landfill site. Arsenic and Old Lace, that's a radio play that's coming up, and it will be on CKDM 3 times during the Thanksgiving weekend. And there's going to be some famous local voices, including our mayor. And the first time it airs is on Thursday, October 9th at 6 p.m. So just a reminder to check out CKDM's community calendar, because they include all of the events that are happening in our community, and it's a valuable source of information. A big thank you to those who organized the Culture Day events over the weekend. If you check out those 2 painted bicycles on Main Street, there's one in front of Home Hardware and one in front of Prairie Corner. There is the schedule there of other cultural events. And also make sure you check out the window display at Mega Deals, because that has a COVID theme. And with regard to the new hotel in town, I actually went in there and peeked around already, and oh my gosh, it's beautiful. So looking forward to getting the more in-depth tour for their grand opening later in October. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Councillor Lachlan. Oh. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. On September the 14th, I attended the regular council meeting here at City Hall. The next day, of course, the tour at Northgate, buildings and more there. Again, thanks to Clayton and his group, the Derailers, for hosting us. Lots of exciting, great stuff going on up at the Hill. And as Councillor Bellemare mentioned, like the fall is a great time to go up there. So now get up there while you can before it gets too cold out. On September the 21st, I missed the planning and priorities meeting here at City Hall because we, the Kings, had our first exhibition game. I just wanted to quickly say thanks to everyone who has cooperated with the social distancing that's taking place in Credit Union Place so far. I know it's been a bit of a change and been difficult so far through 2 games, but just we got to battle through either the full year or maybe half the year and get through it, and then we can hopefully get back to a normal at some point down the road. And then on September the 25th, which was last Friday, got to spend some time with Amber Kuchar there, recording a video on sports and COVID. So thanks to her for her patience. And video was actually posted today on the City of Dauphin Facebook page. So be sure to check that out. So thanks again, Amber, for extreme amount of patience. And that does it for my report.
Councillor Stikilo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For myself, September 14th, regular council meeting. September 15th, I was in attendance as well for the Derailers meet and greet and tour. And thank you to the Derailers for hosting us there and going through everything. It was greatly appreciated, and it's nice to see the progress and all the work that they've done up there. September 21st. PNP meeting, and September 23rd there was a Dauphin neighborhood renewal meeting. I got to meet the new executive director for the first time. She's been spending the past couple of weeks acquainting herself with the work that DNRC does and just catching herself up to speed. We're looking forward to the next her continuing on some of the projects and things that we've been working on as a board. So we're happy, and as well we no longer have a community liaison. That position's been posted and closed, and hopefully we will find someone to fill that role as it's a critical support role for the executive director of that committee going forward. With that ends my report. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Stakilo. For myself, I went on the Northgate tour, and amazing how many the work has been done and the volunteer hours that have been put up, and it'll be a great facility for our region. September 21st, the planning and priorities. On the September 24th, I attended the AMM caucus, city caucus meeting in Steinbach. And as mentioned before, Colleen Smook of the city of Thompson was a new chair for 2 years of the city caucuses. Minister Squires from Municipal Relations spoke there, and there's a lot of questions were asked on ICEP funding, and it's we don't know where it's at still. Apparently the list has been sent to Ottawa, and that's where it is, and Ottawa says we're waiting on Manitoba, so really don't know what's happening. But an interesting presentation there from Research Manitoba, and the first time they're entering into partnering on research projects with municipalities, and I'll leave this folder. Probably they're doing one on roads and that by the University of Brandon, or Brandon University. So I'll leave that with you, city manager, and maybe Bill or somebody. But they're expanding into this role, and the individual, card is there, I can't remember his name, Brent Winnicus. Yeah, he is prepared to talk to anybody in the municipality as long as we have a project that we can share. So yeah, as been mentioned, Wednesday is final day to pay your taxes, and October 5th is the fall cleanup, and day 4 of the garbage cycle. And remember to take your special precautions as to COVID-19, and read on someplace on the internet saying, mask it or casket. That ends my report. This meeting be resolved that moved by Councillor Eilers, second by Councillor Juba at 6:15.